Thanks once again for joining us on another installment of the Toughtalk platform, an edition in which we direct focus on calls by the church for children across English-speaking Cameroon to return to school in September, the contribution of the diaspora to the evolution of the Anglophone crisis, and then French President Emmanuel Macron's claims that high birth rates are responsible for Africa's stunted growth and development. Kindly make yourselves feel at home as we launch deliberations in a jiffy. Hi, Elie Smith.
Hello.
Got lots and lots of calls asking for you to be there today once again.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, because we are just here to speak the truth as it is required in this profession.
Okay, so now on Tuesday's edition, we raised eyebrows over the whereabouts of Cameroon's communication minister and government mouthpiece, Isachiro Mabakari. We hear he's back.
Yeah, he's back because I think he was in France, something on medical checkup or whatever. He's back, but I think that he has not been speaking, not necessarily because he wasn't around.
Yes.
The simple reason why he has not been speaking was that whenever he speaks, it adds more fuel to the already burning flames.
And the flames would have burnt probably the issue in the Catholic Church, the demise of, controversial demise of Jean-Marie Benoit Mbala, the Bishop of Bafia.
Bafia, exactly, because it's quite controversial because personally, I stand by the declaration of the church because he was brutally murdered. And then we know that had it been he would have spoken something, it would have inflamed men of God, men and women of God, or maybe those who are Roman Catholics and other Christians, because it is going to be a kind of an abuse. And this is not the first time that men of God are being killed in this country, especially killed because of the position that they defend. I don't particularly know what Benoit Mbala stood for, but I could recall that when the Bishop of Kumbo died, it was simply because the Bishop of Kumbo was against the sterilization of the people of the Bui division. He asked the question, and I think the government wasn't comfortable with it, and he was killed.
Now let me bring you back to context, Elie Smith. Minister Chiroma says it's fake news, those circulating information that he is in very bad health, and that's why he had to travel to Europe, or to be rushed out to Europe. He says he's back and in very buoyant health, and that you're going to hear him soon. He's going to be spitting fire again.
Yeah, and the question is, what or why did he travel to Europe if he was in very good health?
Without public notice? Without
public notice. I don't think he was in good health. Then I don't also think that it is a bad thing to admit that you are sick. We are human beings. We can have a problem of ill health, which is a natural occurrence. So I don't know why he wants people to think that he's hale and hearty, that he'll be coming back. We don't need him, because most often when he comes, he just tells lies around and it creates more problems than solving them.
In any case, you're going to hear him. He has promised that. He actually spoke to one of the news outlets in Cameroon yesterday. That was on Wednesday. Kejan Henry, welcome.
Thanks. Good morning.
You must have heard that after the cover was blown on Mayor Patrick Ekema Isunge's, questionable admission into the University of Boya, and the ongoing rumors over his fake certificate obtention from universities across the world. He's contemplating escape?
Well, before I even answer that, let me just quickly pick the bone from where Elie dropped.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Come on. What is wrong in a personality to say I'm sick? And that is why in this country, nobody can talk about the health of the president. You know, Buhari is sick, extremely sick, and everybody in the world knows. Before Clinton and Trump went for the race, they had to present their medical report to the world, and other people too have been sick. So why say hide it? And in Parliament, they know that parliamentarians are sick. Sometimes they don't attend sessions. So
and one thing that may not be hidden is, proof that the mayor of Boya probably is the owner of several fake certificates.
Good.
So after the cover was blown,
yes,
the latest is that he's contemplating sneaking out of Cameroon.
Well, that is
that the best choice at this point?
Well, that is what we hear, but we still need confirmation on that. I don't think that is the best choice, because at this particular point in time, it's becoming difficult for him to manage the situation out, especially as it's like, been abandoned by the people who probably voted him in office, abandoned by the people he went against them. And at this particular point, his psyche is probably not very balanced. We hear that, still to be confirmed, I repeat, that his temperature has risen above the normal.
41, 42 degrees.
42 degrees, which means that he might either give up naturally or commit suicide. And he's in a very delicate situation. So, but the question is it going out of the country, will that help the situation out? Resigning, would it help the situation? Maybe the people want him to resign, and probably the dust will settle on that.
Would you say, Henry, that the fact that he's opted for silence since the outbreak of this scandal speaks volumes about the probability of his culpability in the whole matter?
That could be, generally, when certain things come out, you probably want to prepare your defense. The fact that he is silent, because the papers have reported that he went silent, and you know who Ekema is. If that was not the truth,
he would have come out, punching the air.
Yeah, as he used to do.
All right.
If not, with the gun, because sometime I remember he threatened. I think that was a tax during the strike of the taxi drivers. He threatened them and removed the gun. So you can imagine the person Ekema and what he would do if in case you bring false allegations against him. But then the fact that, like you said, keeps quiet would certainly want to mean that, well, it is a truth. But then the Human Rights Commission has done its job, it has forwarded, and like the other quarters are saying, they will probably know what to do. At the level of, maybe at the level of his party, the party might say pass a vote of no confidence, like they've done with other mayors. Another case of scandal was the mayor of Douala II, who actually was fond of shooting pictures of naked women and sending over the social media, but then he was caught in his own trap because one of the girls not had to shoot him stark naked, and the worst of all is that it was in his office.
And he has still not resigned.
And he has still not resigned, and he too went solo.
Okay, thanks. While waiting for, well, because Higher Education Minister Jacques Famendongo, when leaving Boya earlier this week after commissioning into office the new officials at that higher institution learning center, he actually said he was going to take up the Patrick Esunge matter, and that if he was found guilty, well, the punishment will begin trickling. While waiting for the sanctions or the verdict to be pronounced by the Higher Education Minister, French President Emmanuel Macron has been placed in the verbal firing line of especially African critics, both at home and abroad, after footage from the recent G20 conclave held in Hamburg, Germany, depicts him blaming the continent's stunted growth and development on its high birth rate. According to President Macron, Elie Smith, Africa will continue lagging behind if its women continue to birth 7, 8, 9 children, for example.
He is absolutely wrong.
Is that a reason for the slow growth in Africa?
No, it's not a reason for the slow growth in Africa. There are 3 main reasons for the slow growth in Africa. One is colonialism. If you read the book of Walter Rodney, Dr. Walter Rodney wrote a very extraordinary book in 1960 or 61. He was then a lecturer at the University of Dar es Salaam. He's from Guyana. The title of that book is called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. Okay. When I talk about colonialism and slavery, it's that slavery depleted Africa and colonialism gave the coup de grace. Now, because when the colonial masters came, they never had the intention of going. And when they left, in most cases, they left their stooges, those people who acted in their own place. That's one thing. The other thing is that if Africa is not growing, it is also a matter of corruption. Corruption is that the leaders who are governing us are too corrupt. Some of them have become kleptocrats, and they are surviving and thriving in that corruption and kleptocracy simply because the likes of people like Macron, who is a banker, were not able to expose, name and shame most people who come and hide money that they have stolen from Africa in their respective banks. He works for Rothschild. We know that very well. And then to conclude something, when he talks about children, the wives, African women having more,
7, 8 wives and even more.
More. It's not a problem. I would now like to refer you again to this book, which I think is a kind of epic book on bringing down the notion that Westerners have always wanted us to believe. One thing is that there's one thing like distilled water. When you boil water, when it gets to 100 degrees, that's when you have distilled water. I want to mean that Africa is first of all underpopulated. We need people in this African continent. That is the reason why, personally, I frown at what is called family planning. A country like Cameroon, and the other thing is that because of false statistics that people like Macron used to encourage, is we give false statistics. For example, we say Cameroon is 25 million. I want to challenge anybody to tell me that it is true. It is wrong. Cameroon is not 25 million.
The World Bank actually estimates the population of Cameroon to be about 23 million.
23 million. The World Bank is also lying because, you know, for these highly poor indebted countries, in order for you to have it, you need your population ratio must be bigger than the actual GDP.
Okay. And
it was inflated in order for many countries to have it. And I have this example. He is alive. His name is Yaya Musa. He was a representative of the IMF in Congo Brazzaville. He worked with a person called Mathieu Pigas, who used to work for a bank in Switzerland called Lazare. Those people are alive. It is not, I'm telling you. The reason I'm giving the example of Congo Brazzaville. Brazzaville with the help of France in order for Congo Brazzaville to fight for the highly poor indebted countries. I want to just say that Macron doesn't have the right to say what he is saying, because we need a lot of population in this African country, because when you have a lot of population, people are going to work harder, and then we're going to have this problem of industrialization. Why are many people going to China today? Simply because China has a large population, the manpower is there, and the labor is cheaper. People can invest. So I don't think that it is because we father a lot of children, hence we are poor.
I think you are along the line of those who think Macron's statements were a provocation for Africans. But Keja Henry, isn't Macron correct in his analysis of the situation? What's the essence of giving birth to children who end up on the streets, who end up without jobs, who become burdens to the society? Africans are generally pauperized people. So why have 8, 9 children? The woman.
The problem is not the number of children we have. I think I will equally hold the view that he is not correct. Because if you look at Africa, before independence, we have kingdoms, have people who used to have 100 children. They were able to take care of these children. Now, when you look
when
at
was that?
Even before the independence, the colonization rather of
so
Africa.
The contexts are not the same.
Contexts are not the same, and some of these people went to school. They were able to handle their children right up to a certain level of education. If you talk about the birth of too many children as being a factor or a vector of our underdevelopment, it becomes controversial in a case where, because normally, Elie said, we don't provide the real statistics. As we speak, the World Bank will admit, for example, what we give as statistics. Remember that we've not been able in this country to organize a census because these things have been postponed again. And so we fail to plan. And it is a management problem and not because of the number of children we have. Let me say this, the number of children you have, is those who have 6, 7, 8, have sent all these children to school. How many of these children come out and are working? Did your economic policy that you put in place enabling enough for these children to come pick up jobs? Now, did they study in an environment that will help them come out career ready to create jobs?
Okay.
That is the problem. The problem is not the number of children you have. And just like Elie was saying, look at the population of Nigeria, which is, of course, I think the leading now in the world, on the continent.
In Africa.
In Africa. And
close to 300 million inhabitants.
Well, I think that is probably an advanced statement from you. But look at what they are doing. So it becomes controversial to think that because we give birth to too many children, it is a cause of a slow pace of development. When they loot, when you loot and still carry the same money that they gave you, you send back to Europe. When they gave you money for agricultural expansion, you carry that money and you carry back to France or to Europe or to the United States. It becomes a problem.
Elie Smith, let's look at China, India, and Nigeria. You were quoting Nigeria a couple of seconds ago, Henry. China, India, they've started resorting to birth rate limitations, which means they're asking women not to give birth to as many children. Is that? I mean, that's a factor that drives the economic development of both countries, and India and China in particular.
Yeah, I beg to differ a little bit with you. China had this one-child birth policy. They are now trying to correct it. They are losing it already because they have discovered that the demographics are no longer in favor of them, of the Chinese. Well, in India, yes, they were trying to implement it. It's simply because you have people in India who are doing that for political reasons. When you have these BJP people of Modi in power, they are sometimes, since they have conflict with the Muslims, they are afraid that the Islamic population in India might overshadow the Hindus. But I want to come back again on this problem of population. If people are going to China to invest, it's because China has a large population, the manpower is lower, and cost of labor is lower. Great. Now, let me come back on this problem of the statistics of Macron. I used to have a lot of respect for him. First of all, I've discovered that his statistics is based on that of the figures of 1960. Because I read a very good piece, I've forgotten about it, from a lady working with Bloomberg. Those figures, where they were claiming that women in Africa used to have 9, 10 children, it's in the past. There were 2 examples, Nigeria and Kenya. But today, the birth ratio from women has dropped.
I like it when you say that, Elie Smith. You are gradually coming to meet Macron. There's a convergence in there. You say in the 60s, women could give birth to so and so many children.
Yes.
But this time around, they shouldn't.
Yeah, this time, not that they shouldn't.
If they don't have the means.
If they don't have, well, no, I think that it's simply because we don't have good governance. Because if we had governments around the world or in Africa who could assist women like they do in France, because there's a problem also. Why is it that in Macron's France, you give assistance to women to procreate more children, and you don't want it to come to Africa, which means it's kind of contradictory. As I was saying about the birth ratio.
Is the assistance given to women who don't have spouses and who have children? Or to women in general to procreate?
No, in France, women in general. And even Russia is even doing that already, because in Russia, we have discovered the population of the Russians are diminishing, and the Russian government has launched a campaign to encourage women, married or not, to have children. Now, in Africa, we have a problem. Even in Germany. Now, he talked about Nigeria. There's a problem in Nigeria about the population. The population statistics in Nigeria is an epic example of politics, where the Northerners claim they are the majority and the Southerners claim they are one. We don't know the real population of Nigeria, and it's the same thing in Cameroon. I think that a country like Sudan, for example, is capable of having 500 million people. A country like Nigeria, Cameroon, that is about 12 or 15 million inhabitants. They say they are 20. I think no, because we have never conducted an accurate census here. So I think Macron is wrong in trying. And then there's another thing. Macron is a racist, because he's talked about a civilizational problem.
He says it's not financial, it's civilizational.
When you say civilizational, you are trying to mean that we are still living on the woods, on top of trees, we are animals. It's a kind of polite way of insulting us, and we don't want to have an insult from Macron. I think I would be a bit excessive. The problem with Macron is that he got married to a woman who has had 3 children before. He doesn't have a child, and he thinks that everybody needs to behave as he is behaving, and we say no, we are Africans and we need to assume what we are.
Kejan Henry, his election as France's president was enthusiastically saluted across Cameroon and even gave rise to the emergence of the likes of the Cabral Libis. Is it time for Africans to vomit him? Elie Smith was mentioning it.
I think
some say he is racist.
Well, it could be very early to start vomiting him, but you can vomit somebody from the first sight. You know, they say the first impression matters, and with that racist tendencies that he's propagating already, you might vomit him from the very beginning. But I think I don't really know if Macron has a real insight of Africa. You know, I was talking with a jurist who came from the US to do a research. That is somebody who has spent all his years in New York and only came to Cameroon. And when he dropped at the airport at night, they took him to Bamenda to do his research and came back and went. So he was very surprised to find out that, you know, the Africans that he learns from his parents, that they are savages, were very understanding and welcoming. Macron might not, like I say, he's a very young man, 39 years, and when he just left school, I don't know how many times he stepped legs in Africa. And even if he has been to Africa, probably in the north of Africa, and not recently that he went to the West Africa. So sometimes those whites who live in Africa and know the reality will be able to tell Macron that what he has said is a lie.
Elie Smith, some say it's a distraction, all of this. Some say he is actually dodging something bigger, which is the accusations that France has contributed in pillaging and looting Africa, and it is time for refunds.
Exactly. I think that's what he's doing. And I beg to differ with you. He's 39. This obsession that people are 39, 40 and think that they are old. No, people at 26, 18 are already major people. Now, the thing is, I think it is a well-calculated distraction. When he talked about the failing democracies of Africa, he talks about a number of things. Let me talk first of all, let me focus a little bit or zero on democracy. France is responsible of all the inconsistencies that we have here in Africa. All the despots that we have, for example, in French-speaking Africa, are supported, bankrolled by France. If he's not able today to tell us that he's going to correct the wrongs that his predecessors have created, then I think it is a problem, because I think he is just simply there. He cannot act, he cannot do anything, and he wants now to distract people. I think it was a distraction, but he's a racist. He's a racist in the fact that, and he's also stoking the racist tendencies in some quarters in France, who believe that, well, we create a lot of children, we are irresponsible, and he forgets to understand the responsibility of France in helping Sassou Nguesso to overthrow the second democratically elected president of Congo-Brazzaville, Pascal Lissouba. He doesn't want to tell us how France has been helping Omar Bongo first, the son Ali Bongo, to pillage, plunder Gabon. He doesn't want to tell us the role that France played in killing of East Cameroonians of UPC, and also in the extension of destroying West Cameroon. He doesn't want to tell us all the genocide that they have committed in Algeria. He has come to Africa. The first time he came to Africa was in Nigeria, and you discover that he was kind of surprised at the dynamism of Nigeria. But then you understand that he's real French. His problem was that the Nigerians were not bordering Britain, just as French-speaking Africa are bordering the French. Right. So you understand that he's a man who is a narcissistic person. He's a nationalist. He is racist, because what he's doing is trying to undermine us. Our wives, we need to have children. It is important for the growth of Africa tomorrow. We need 5, 10 children. But now the thing is that our governments need to support the wives and women who are able to give children. Birth control is not for Africa. I'm a person who loves what Dr. Walter Rodney wrote in the 60s. It was in the 60s, and it is very important and still valid today.
So you may want to have your say on this. Kindly rush onto our Facebook page. It's called Canal Do English. You can Google that. I'm sure you'll find it. You can video yourself and share your experiences, or rather your thoughts on this. Drop them on that page and we'll pick them up for our next edition, which comes up on Tuesday. In the meantime, let's go out of Cameroon, because Macron's statements have provoked and triggered lots of reactions worldwide. We'll straight on go to the United States, where we have a couple of friends reacting to Macron's claims that Africa's stunted growth and development is as a result of its exponential birth rate. Let's hear them.
Hello and welcome to Common Sense. I mean, Emmanuel Macron has spoken. He specifically says Africa don't need no freaking aid. It needs to stop having babies. You know, in a way, I kind of agree with him. If you're so damn poor, maybe you need to stop having sex for a little while.
Hey guys, so it looks like Macron is getting a lot of flack for his comments at the G20 summit about Africa. He said one of the problems that they have essentially is that a lot of the women there are having 7, 8 kids. Now, he had a bunch of people jump down his throat, yell at him, call him a racist, a white supremacist. They're all like, no, he was supposed to be our God. Oh my God, he was supposed to be like the James Bond guy. Blah, blah. What happened?
He wants you to understand that you filthy, vile Africans need to stop having sex. We're not sending y'all no damn money. The earth is too crowded anyway. Climate change is in effect. That's why they like the Muslims. They want them to kill off some of you sons of bitches. That's all it is to it.
The French President Macron angered some leftists at the G20 summit when he said part of the problem in Africa is the women are having too many babies, like in Nigeria, they have 7 or 8. And that creates such a strain on everything. Now, before Europe got involved or white man showed up, nature took care of it. Women would have a lot of children, but most would starve or die, so the population remained in check. But now, because we send our aid and our food, it's just boomed. And these people are migrating en masse to Europe and the United States, and it will be a disaster. It could end civilization. That's how serious it is. This is like the key issue of our time.
You know, so he says that let's just stop sending Africa money. You bastards need to stop having sex, having babies. You know, I know he's thrown off in the head, but it's the truth though. This statement is actually true. If you're so damn poor that you ain't got no food, why in the hell you keep having babies?
Saying that poor people shouldn't have 7, 8 kids to help their financial situation is not racist. The same applies in Canada, in America, right? If you're growing up in America or Canada and you're like 18, you have like 3 kids already, you think you're gonna be a fucking millionaire? Do you think you're gonna make a lot of money, right? You're gonna have to take care of those kids. That's the time out of the workforce, out of, bettering yourself, right? And I'm not saying we need to, we just need to understand that kids equal resources that need to be spent. So if you have 2 adults or 1 adult supporting 7 kids, that's a lot of resources you need to provide for that family. So this should be fucking common sense, right? And throwing money at the issue is not going to help. It doesn't help here. It doesn't help with our poor people. Why would it help in Africa?
He says if he tells you in Africa, bam, to stop having sex, damn it, do it. Now, did he say that about the Muslims? I'm starting to think you may be a racist, Emmanuel. You only saying that about the Africans? What about all these freaking Muslims? They average 7 or 8 kids, each one of them with 3 and 4 wives. But he didn't say the Muslims need to stop having sex. Keep sending them money. Bring refugees over, send them money.
We've sent more than $1 trillion to Africa in a couple decades, like 3 or 4 decades. So, right? Like that clearly has not worked. It has screwed them over more, right? Our attempted effort to help people, which a lot of times is what socialism ends up doing, is we think we're helping people and it ends up just hurting them in the end, right? You think a lot of this money that we send to these countries is going to go directly to the African people? No, it's going to get funneled through their corrupt governments. And if you think our government's corrupt, theirs are fucking way worse.
So Henry, our last speaker in there, says it's not worthwhile having 5, 6, 7, 8 children when you don't have the means to take care of them.
Maybe he's jobless. But let me quickly say the
he is in the U.S.
Yes,
compare the level of joblessness in the U.S. and
the U.S. people have 8 children. How many children is our president having? I mean, Trump. Trump has about 11 children.
That's you need to verify that.
Yeah, but in the 60s and 70s and 80s, Bob Marley left 23 children. He adopted 2.
60s and 70s. I wanted us to stay in the context.
The point is, let us not forget that we have endangered ethnic groups now as I speak in this country. If you move to the Bakwere land, let me tell you, You can head count with your fingers, you can count the number of people who exist in the Bakure land. It is not an insult. It's because the people are not there. They are almost disappearing. The Bakure people are almost disappearing. There are other tribes. If you move to Kumba, the Bafors are almost disappearing. Let us not make a lie of it. There is another small ethnic group, the Balongs. They are almost disappearing.
Even the Lebialems too?
No, those people, they give birth to too many children. Too many children. I cannot tell you, I'm a man from there, and I cannot tell you the number of children I have already.
Is that palpable reason for us to continue giving birth to children we cannot take care of?
No, not that we cannot take care of. The problem with Africans is that we seem to have copied every bit and pieces of everything negative from Western Europe, from the Western world. If we were living as Africans, then we can blend a little bit of modernity. We will not have any problems. Recently on the BBC, I saw a young man of 80 who has 100 children.
A young man of 80?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, 80 years old and wants to father more. And in a village of 600 inhabitants, so he has one quarter of the population. I think population is not a problem. The problem with Macron, I think that he is, without mentioning where he is a racist, and besides being a racist, he is naive. He is kind of scared when he hears about the projections of Africa. That scares him. Listen, between 1884 and 1960, Africa had a kind of stunted growth in terms of population wide. There's a country called the DRC, which is a country that has suffered a lot. It was almost depopulated.
It's still suffering, actually.
Still suffering, depopulated because of slavery. Now, two kinds of slavery: the Western slaveries and the Arab slavery that people don't want to talk about because it's a silence on a kind of unholy alliance between Africans and Arabs. Because you have to understand, a lot of Arabs they did plunder Africa a lot. And I think between 1884 and 1961, this population growth wasn't there. But after 1960, because of an improvement in the healthcare system, then the population had to explode. That's the reason why Macron is afraid. But then it is not yet enough. We need manpower to drive the growth of Africa. So Macron has to be humble enough. What I think Macron has to do is to apologize. He wants to act like Nicolas Sarkozy did in 2007 2008 in Dakar, and he has done his own in Hamburg, and we tell him he is a racist. He has to apologize to Africans for insulting them. We have not refused him from having children. It is his own cup of tea. But we Africans will have our own children, and we will not accept a dictate from people from Western Europe or from the Western world.
Now let's take a break, and when we come back, hopefully Macron should have heard your message and may probably be elaborating his apology strategy. We'll be back in a moment. So the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province, with jurisdiction over the English-speaking northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, has urged all education secretaries in those parts to begin preparing for a hitch-free back-to-school, with enrollment heralded to debut at around July 15 for the debut of the next academic year, scheduled for the 4th of September, according to a recent release from the Ministry of Secondary Education. Kejan Henry, the call contained in the July 8 missive to the education secretaries has been considered a disappointing backpedal by those who thought the Catholic Church was going to be staunch on keeping children away from school.
You are very right. Let me quote Bishop Emmanuel Bushu in his...
That's the Bishop of Boya Diocese?
Yes, in his ever humble and simplistic mannerism. You know, when Governor Okala Bilai approached him arrogantly, as he used to do, to ask him to open the schools, this is what he told the bishop: I have heard you, and I am equally worried why the children are not going to school. But I have one question to answer God: if a child dies, let alone a lone child of a father. Mm-hmm. So I don't have the power to open schools. End of quote. This was carried by the media, and we understand that the church is gradually understanding that the children should go to school. In fact, it's the wish of everybody.
Is it a disappointing backpedal on the part of the church for the uncompromising hardliners of the Anglophone cause?
They were not hardliners, because the church had earlier on said that we did not call for the strike. They just aligned, and they were waiting for those who called for the strike to call it off. When the strike was called off by TAC and a group of others, that was on a certain Sunday or Saturday, people said that was not the original body that called the strike action. So that body had no autonomy to call off the strike, and so children stayed home till today as we speak. Now the church thinks, as we are going towards September, it is important for the children to go back home.
To school?
To go back to school, rather. Could that be a disappointment to the people who are out for the cause? I think the church will probably still rethink on the strategy.
Elie Smith, the July 8 missive to the education secretaries actually follows a July 7 appeal launched by teachers and PTA officials who say, and this is very important, that losing one school year without making the point does not mean that losing a second one would make the point.
Yes.
That's logical reasoning.
Yeah, on the part of the PTAs, right?
Right, and yes.
Yeah, but I think it is logical. And there is a problem about the back pattern of the confessional churches, schools, is that, first of all, I think Ejan said they did not call for the strike, and they can also not call off the strikes. And the question is, why the U-turn? I understand.
Why the back pedal?
Yes, I understand. It's simply because the government has twisted them, and the government is a very arrogant government that thinks that they have been humiliated by the civil society organizations of West Cameroon. Has the enabling grounds been created for classes to resume? Henry, I'm not a prophet of doom. Classes will not resume in September. It is not as though I don't want children to go back to school. I want children to go back to school. But the government needs to be humble enough, patriotic, to create the enabling environment for people to go to school. There's going to be a problem. And already, there are tracks going around in West Cameroon saying that yes, classes are going to resume, but in January. Because things have fallen apart simply because of this government. I think the church has done a mistake, and the thing is happening because the church or the confessional schools are being influenced because of the majority of francophones that are in their association. Because those francophones don't seem to understand the problems of West Cameroon. You can imagine that there was a kind of contradiction that emerged when the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province released a communique or a memorandum stating all the prerequisites for schools to resume. And then I was really flabbergasted when CLEDA decided that
the Archbishop Tudwala and the President of the National Episcopal Conference
decided to go against the rule or the recommendation of a memorandum written by people who are on the ground. And now one good thing about it is that the treachery of the majority of the francophones who are members of the Association of Confessional Churches schools has come back onto them. Because look at CLEDA today. CLEDA today, Monseigneur Bala, brutally killed by the government that he wines and dines with them. The thing is that the Anglophones, the people of West Cameroon, really want their children to go to school. But we need to ask this question to people who seems to sit in Yaoundé and in Douala and want to give lessons to people. Do you think that a normal parent will refuse under normal circumstances to send the children to school? No, there is a problem, and that problem has to be solved. The beginning of the solution will be simple. Release all those who are in detention, for Christ's sake. If they are released, on that basis, they will sit, discuss with that government to see the way forward. I know in September there's not going to be school resuming. It's a good thing. But one good thing to the church, right? The government is not going to accuse them anymore. They will open their doors open, but nobody would like to send his or her daughter to a place where he will be attacked on the road, or the same policemen and army officers will rape them.
Okay. Now, Henry, just to note that the Presbyterians and the Baptists across Cameroon have also urged their officials to begin enrollment in prelude to the start
as
of
well as
the next
and
academic year. I don't know about them yet, but the question to you, Henry, is that, well, the PTA officials and teachers who launched the appeal call for the schools to be reopened, especially concerning the Catholics, say that those who are using schools and schoolgoers as bargain tools in this struggle should reconsider their tactics, because the harm is being done on the children who are supposed to be the future leaders of whatsoever you call it, Southern Cameroons
or even the Cameroons. It is very disheartening when the children don't go to school. We know the dangers, the consequences, and we have reports on many of the girl children who are pregnant as a result of this long stay at home. We are not saying that some don't get pregnant during holidays. They go to school, some are even in school and get pregnant.
It's not only pregnancy, unwanted teenage pregnancies, Henry, there's surging criminality, there's soaring drug consumption, delinquency is skyrocketing and so on.
Right. Now they say they should rethink the strategy. Yes, and what would be the strategy? To tell the government that, okay, we have got up to this point in time, I think we should go to the table and sort the jokers. I read a social media publication that there is a new something created that schools should start in January in West Cameroon, and they are very bent on that. When it becomes inscribed in the brains of those people, because the message has already gone, the people have already embraced it, and they are saying that we will start our school in January, which means they're altering the order of things as it used to move according to the government plan. But would that, because I said this sometime on the flagship program on government-run TV station, that it is taking a spiritual precedence. It is taking a spiritual precedence.
What, the struggle?
The struggle. Whatever thing comes from wherever, the people embrace it. And they don't just blindly embrace it, they analyze it. And so it becomes difficult. Now, what tactics do you apply now? Elie said they have asked the people to open their schools. Don't forget that even the teachers too are parents. And some parents are teachers. So it becomes a very difficult thing. Now, I said one man and only will be able to solve this problem right now. And I said it's President Biya.
Okay. Elie Smith, we're looking at a generation of upcoming Cameroonians whose destinies may be ruined as a result of staying out of school. These are people who may never forget the masterminds of the Anglophone struggle. We're playing with fire, right?
No. I know you are in your role, and I will speak this with all solemnity. You are in your role. They will not forgive anybody for what? They know that they are fighting for the future of a nation that has been abused for 56 years. No, I think if you recall, Bernard Mona said, we got nothing to lose, we can wait for 7 years. Because first of all, yes, most Anglophones went to school and have they been given jobs. If Anglophone Cameroon today is being revived economically, it's because of the large number of Anglophones out of Cameroon, driven out of these countries because they are discriminated upon. Nobody is refusing that schools should resume. I want schools to resume. But we should be humble enough and honest enough to understand that the architect of all this problem is the government of Cameroon. And in the government of Cameroon, you have two individuals, Laurent Esso,
that's Minister of Justice and Keeper of the Seals,
Jacques Famendongo.
Higher education.
Because they felt at a certain point in time, I don't know why Francophones think that. The thing people should understand, Henry, is that since unification of the two Cameroons, the losers have been the Anglophones. And the Francophones thought that they have had a new colony, they can do everything they want to do there. They never knew that there are two things, I've been saying it here, that Anglophones will not trade their educational system and their judicial system.
The same educational system they are now destroying. Elie Smith, if we if we are logical in reasoning this thing out, when children stay out of school for 1 year, and there's the risk that they may stay out of school another year.
Yeah, who is destroying?
It's the same system of education you claim to want to protect,
but that is
being wrecked and
already. It was wrecked by the Francophones, whereby I have a friend who was sent to Mount Faye. I will not give his name because it's not good. He doesn't speak one little bit of English, even pidgin. He himself told me, "Ah, mon frère, je ne sais pas ce que je vais faire là-bas." Because the idea of the Francophone government in Yaoundé, and sadly in collaboration with the bourgeoisie, comprador, collaborationist Anglophone, has always been that Anglophone Cameroon should become Francophone Cameroon. And we have resisted that, and we are resisting. Look, it's not as if nobody cares, but it is better for the children to go back to school, but in security. Okay. Those children who wanted even to go to school at University of Boya, who were gang raped, beaten, humiliated, has any of those people who afflicted those girls been punished? No. I think until the enabling environment is set, only then can classes resume. It's not as though I don't want classes to resume. The thing is that Agwobala, Fontaine, whose car was dynamited, arrested like an ordinary rogue. People are like Mancho BBC, who committed no crime. The only problem of Mancho BBC was that he was denouncing the corruption of the government delegate of Bamenda. The same thing that happens in Douala. He is in jail. Look, I think if the government of Cameroon is serious and that they want classes to resume, they should release all the detainees in detention, and those people who were the people negotiating with the government can now give, Kejan said it's a spiritual call, it's a popular movement. Until that is done, only then can classes resume. We should forget about all those things. Classes will not resume because people don't want their children to be killed.
Okay. Now, the letter that actually instructs Catholic education secretaries in the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province actually bears the insignia of Bishop George Nkwo of the Kumbo Archdiocese. And standing by in Kumbo right now is Njoka Kingsley. Hi, Njoka. How is Banso?
Hello, Tarike. Good day and welcome to Kumbo. Well, Kumbo, as usual, is in the heat of the struggle, and everybody is looking forward to see what happens in the days ahead.
So what's going to happen? What's going to happen, Kingsley? Let's just get down to business. What's going to happen? Are parents telling you they will send their kids to school? Are you going to send yours to school in September?
Well, Tarike, you see, when we go back to the bishop's communique, you understand?
Yes.
When we look at the bishop's communique, you know, people are surprised, people have been taken aback, but I can view it from three classes of people. You know, the intellectual class looks at it like positioning.
Okay.
Positioning here simply means that, you see, the doors of the church or the schools of the church had never been closed. The bishops came many times and said, our doors are never closed.
All right.
People should come to school. You see, if the bishops had done the contrary, saying that our doors are closed or people should not come to school, it would have been an abomination. It would have been away from their moral teaching. They have just said what they should do. Their moral teaching says, let the people come to school and get education. Yeah. So the issue was, the bishops never convinced in strike action, and they cannot call off the strike action. They are just doing their own work. So it is left on the parents. Like I said, and I've always said, the situation at hand no longer depends on a certain teacher or a certain group of lawyers or a certain church or a certain, it depends on the people who are the parents.
All right.
You understand? The parents decide whether their children go to school or not. The bishops knew so well that what is on the ground is it will be impossible for people to go to school. Practically impossible. Let me put it up to you, Darike. In Kumbu, what actually prompted the people and to get the people well planted in the struggle is Wilbar's intervention at the assembly. When Wilbar's first intervention came, his CD was viral. The clips were forwarded to all the nooks and crannies of the community.
Right.
Today, if the bishop says churches churches should go, or the schools should go back, people should send their children to school. Grandmothers, grandparents in the villages will ask, what has Wilbur said? That is the thing that is happening here now.
Okay.
You see, if the church pressures, this is what will be, the church will be running head on with its own Christians. Recently, when the announcement was done at the cathedral in Kumbu, I will tell you this. Somebody who was in church made me to understand that there were murmurs and grumbles, meaning that they respect the church leaders so well that they know what is at hand.
Okay.
There's a serious difficulty at hand, and if the people do not have resolve, if the government stays mute, I am telling you, and you remember the last time I intervened in the program, I told you we are no longer talking about schools now. We are thinking of whether schools will ever come up in September. Has it changed?
All right.
That is the situation on the ground. It is practical. You see, as a media person, I have moved to the various people, I have discussed with the various groupings, and this is the total impression I get. The intellectual class looks at it as positioning by the church.
All right.
So that if something does not happen in September,
Okay.
the church should not be blamed.
Okay.
The second class of citizens, I can call many intellectuals, look at it like betrayal from the bishop.
Right.
But the grassroots people look at it as, no, we can't do that until we get results. So the issue is not about the church. It is not about the lawyers. It is not about the teachers. It is about the parents. The doors of the church have been opened.
Kingsley, briefly on this, do you think those promoting the Anglophone struggle would consider it a defeat or a loss if schools were opened and parents finally decided to send kids to school?
Yes, Dariki, let me put it clear to you. The strategy of school boycott is the most cost-effective. It is the most effective in handling the government. You see, remember in 1992, there were ghost towns and ghost towns for over 9 months. When the president came up, he said, "Can Yaoundé receive le Cameroun V?" Which means that no matter what you do, where you do it, he does not care.
All right.
So this time around, when you see the ministers shuttle up and down, you discover that it is touching on the government. The government, because of the ongoing strategy, have given every other thing that the Anglophone asked for. But to be honest with you, they are asking for the form of seat as a guarantee to all that. Because, like Wilbur says, it is our right for our freedom. Don't take our freedom and our rights and give us privileges.
Okay.
You understand? So
Thanks.
the people are simply saying that the schools boycott to be lifted, it will be a defeat on their side.
Okay.
Except they have another cost-effective strategy to put in place. And when you get into other strategies, they are most costly.
Okay.
For example, if they say all the civil servants in the West Cameroon should stop work, families will never do that. That is not feasible.
Okay.
It is not feasible.
All right.
But if they say that people should pick up arms, it will be more dangerous than the school boycott. So
Thanks.
the school boycott remains the most effective and the only solution to this problem, because we are now at the tail of it.
Thanks very much,
Because
Kingsley.
I'm
We got you. I'm sorry, we will have to leave it there, Kingsley. Kingsley, I'm sorry. Thanks very much for your contributions. We'll just have to leave it there and get back to you in due course. Thanks once again for your contribution. It's our pleasure. Kejan, I'll take up cue up from where he ended. Would these schools be safe when they are opened in September? Aren't there fears that they could be set ablaze? We've seen cases happen in the recent past.
Anything can happen. But I believe that the population out there is a very rational population, because you just like the Kingsley said, the schools can open the doors, but the people stay at home. So the schools might be empty. So there's no reason for the schools to go. But he said the church had already said it some time ago that they did not call for the strike action. They will not lift the strike action. Mm-hmm. They have never refused children from coming to school. Their doors are open, and they are still repeating that their doors are open. And so they are waiting for the children. I think it's a very technical issue to say that, well, even if the doors are open, maybe the children will not go back to school.
They may not go back to school, Elie Smith, because parents may be scared their kids may be attacked on the way to school.
Yes, it's true, and I'm afraid about what is going to happen in Cameroon by September, because if the government thinks that they will, as I think it's Gogomo or whatever said, by hook or by crook, people, they are going to write a GCE or they're going to do whatever. If the government thinks that they can use force, it's not going to work, because the government is even losing on a kind of PR grounds. Even on e-communications, for example, since we pray God that Issa Chiruma Bakari should be hale and hearty and come and speak, as the very first day he is going to speak on this problem, he's going to pour more fuel on the flame. The thing is, the government has to release those who are in jail, because if those who are in jail are released, it's going to assure the parents. Listen to what Jokai has just said. Parents would always ask, what has Wiriba said? Which means that the people no longer have any credibility in anything the government says. So if the government is humble enough, and I plead those deceiving Paul Biya and his minister that everything is over, should think twice. They should send honest people on the ground to discover that down in West Cameroon. And I think also in the mentality of this government is that they want to play divide and rule. They think that, okay, they are going to divide the people of Southwest against the people of the Northwest. They are lying. They that release those who are in detention. If those people are released, only they can calm down the situation, because parents are afraid. Why would you send your son or your daughter to a school that the school might be set ablaze? So I think the church has done her role in officializing or saying it officially that the classes are open. But now the thing is that I think the church might be ridiculed, because if people don't come to school, so I think the government needs to think twice. The church might not be ridiculed. Okay, yes, anyway, yes.
The teachers, especially those of the Catholic Church, their argument is that they've been going for 8 months without salary, and that their government colleagues go to the banks every now and then and collect pay. I mean, how do you expect them to live off work for all this while? Those are the
collateral damages of a struggle.
Any struggle?
In any struggle.
Is selective injustice being done to the teachers?
Well, that is a natural injustice. It is true. It is painful. It is painful, and that is why most of the teachers, because what will happen now is the consequences, the repercussions of such a crisis. People will be moving out of the risk moving, emptying the town or the region. You don't know what they might be fanning, because they tell you now that an idle man becomes a devil's workshop. And at a certain point in time, when you get to the point where you will not be able to feed their children, it becomes extremely dangerous.
Okay, now briefly and quickly, Elie Smith, I'm sorry, I need to rush you on this. And Joka Kingsley mentioned it a while ago. The masterminds of the Anglophone struggle understand quite well that if they lose grip of the hijack they've placed on the schools, they've lost the struggle. Would you agree?
I agree, but there's going to be another option.
What is the option?
Well, the
teachers are asking for a reconsideration of the usage of schools and schoolgoers as a bargain tool.
Yeah, when that tool is taken away from them, there's certainly going to be, there is going to be kind of redesignation, and then another tool will be put on the table, which might be more lethal.
Thanks once again. Now we'll take a break, and when we come back, Gina Leke will be here for what is trending across Cameroon today. And so she's here. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you.
You look great as usual.
Thank you.
Sometimes people ask, what does she eat? What does she drink?
Well, I take a lot of fruits. I also do some sports to keep the body in form.
And you are in top form. So what's in top form, buzzing the news this day?
Well, we are looking at Cameroon's chances of hosting the 2019 AFCON Games, which is like hanging in the balance. And there are some nations that are trying to give Cameroon a run for their money.
Algeria?
Yes.
Right.
So over the weekend, the president of the Algerian Football Association announced that Algeria will readily step in if Cameroon is not ready. And the Algerian president, the president of the Algerian Football Association, said has been following the events in Cameroon, and it seems that when you want to look at the projects on the ground, maybe Cameroon will not be able to deliver before.
Will Cameroon be able to deliver?
Well,
Let's say that as it is.
Well, a lot of observers are of the opinion that if you look at what is on the ground, we are less than 18 months to the African Cup of Nations. And when you look at projects that were earmarked, let's take, for example, the Japoma Stadium, the 50,000 capacity stadium, which is less than 20% gone. There are some of them that have not even started, like the Olembe Stadium, the 50,000 capacity stadium. Construction works have not even begun. We are talking less than 18 months time. Because
the competition actually debuts in January 2019.
Exactly, January 2019. And we also have like the rehabilitation work at the Rumde
Ajah Stadium in Garoua.
Right. Construction works have not also
rehabilitation.
Thanks for the correction. Rehabilitation works have not also begun. And also, even if you want to look at keep stadia aside, look at other infrastructures that are necessary for a nation to host a competition of that magnitude. Look at the road network, hotel. There is still a lot lagging. Like, for example, the Minister of Transport, Edgar Alain Mebembogo, was in Garoua recently, and he himself expressed worries at the state of the Garoua International Airport, and it's supposed to be one of the main entrance into the country.
Especially for North African selections and delegations.
Exactly. So it's really, really worrying, and that's why you see the Algerians are coming up. Even like a month ago, Morocco also came up to say that if Cameroon will not be able to live up to the tax, they will want to step in. And
is it possible that Cameroon can lose the hosting?
It's possible. It's possible. CAF reserves the right.
There's a stadium in Yaoundé already. There's one in Douala.
Yes, there is. But we are looking at the possibility. You're hosting a continent. Will it be able to take care of all the matches? And may I remind you that an inspection team of CAF will be in Cameroon. That's why the pressure is really high.
When is that?
They say in a month or two they'll be in Cameroon. That's why people are thinking that if they come and they see what is on the ground, they may be forced to withdraw the right from Cameroon. That is why these other countries, Algeria, you remember, was in the run also to host, but it lost the bid to Cameroon. So that's why these countries are like anxious that if things don't go well for Cameroon, they will readily step in to host the African Cup of Nations.
And already there have been complaints at the level of critics of the Confederation of African Football under Cameroonian-born Issa Hayatou. They didn't see why the tournament was staged in Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and then Cameroon. Why would it become a Central African thing?
Yes, exactly.
That may add to the calls for it to be taken away from Cameroon.
Exactly, because 2019 is Cameroon, 2021 is Côte d'Ivoire, and 2023 is Guinea. It's this French nation, Central Africa. Yes. So a lot of people questioned the credibility of the team that decided that these nations should host this African Cup of Nations. And also maybe we want to look at the situation of the country. When you look at, we cannot deny the fact that the current ongoing Anglophone crisis has created tensions in the country.
It's painted Cameroon a little black on the world map.
Exactly, on the world map. If we do not work to secure a lasting peace in this nation, it would be also, it will play against Cameroon.
Plus, there's Boko Haram in the far north, and on Wednesday night,
we just learned of the 14 people in Waza.
That's huge.
Yes, that's huge. So with all this going on, there are a lot of people who think that, well, we are Cameroonians and we want to host because it's also going to be a great opportunity. Right. It's going to create jobs and all of that. But I think the efforts have to speed up for things to really go fast so that we can be sure that we can host this mighty competition.
With your permission, I'll ask Kejan Henry one very quick question. Would it be better for Cameroon not to stage the tournament, or stage it and let it become a disgrace?
It would be better for Cameroon to withdraw. But that since Cameroon does not know shame, because they can tell you play in the mud, why as the competition continues, we are doing
it. Almost happened at the 2015
It happened, not like almost. It happened because the gateway to the stadium was never done. We have
the girls were playing while paint was being put on the walls.
Since without no shame, the reunification celebration took place in Boya. The amphitheater was standing directly opposite the grandstand, uncompleted. As I speak, the hotel, the commis that was supposed to host, guests for the agro-pastoral show in the boulevard has not been completed, and so it becomes
tractors
difficult.
That were brought in from
that was brought in
from India,
they diverted
in the bush.
Good. So Cameroon knows no shame. The 60 billion that are going to put into the rehab of the reunification stadium, I doubt what that money will do.
Some say this is a strategy by those supposed to handle the construction and rehabilitation works. You know, when you delay the process and then it gets to a last-minute rush, it's much more possible to swindle money than if you let it flow normally.
I think that it's bad for Cameroon. It's bad because when you do a job in a hurry, there are consequences. I mean, if you construct a stadium in a hurry, maybe you might erect a stadium in less than a year or two, but we want to look at sustainability. How is that stadium going to survive in the future? We have known situations, maybe not in Cameroon, where stadia have collapsed and all of that.
The Yaoundé Omnisport Stadium actually collapsed.
Fine. So you look at that. Even ex-indomitable Lion stars like Patrick Mboma have expressed worries. He gave an interview a few days ago on RFI, and he was saying that he is really worried. I mean, as a former Lion, as a Cameroonian, that the pace of work is really, really slow, and that if we have to host this, we don't have to, just like Mr. Kejan said.
Kejan Henry Akembe.
Yes. We have to prove that we can do it or don't do it at all. So it's really a disturbing situation.
And Divine, recently there was a group of inspectors from the United Bank of Africa that, wearing the money transit. They were here for an inspection tour to find out what is really going on the ground at Japoma. No information filtered, but for what we gathered, they are still at the excavation phase. Now they say they will use
the Turkish say they're bringing prefabricated material.
Prefabricated material. That would be structural engineering now. Would that work? They said 18 months would do. Okay, so we hope so.
Welcome. Thanks again, Gina. I'm
welcome.
To say welcome, even though you've been here already. So we'll see you on Tuesday.
Yes.
Hopefully something big is going to be trending.
Most definitely.
Have a good weekend and catch you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying on with us. This is Tough Talk. We'll be back in another brief moment. So since the eruption of what some have preferred to refer to as the Anglophone Spring in October 2016, Cameroonians in the diaspora have been superlatively active in backing the cause, but increasingly cracks and cleavages continue to emerge in some quarters within the Cameroonian diaspora. This may be good news for the government and Elie Smith opponents of the struggle. There have been breakups, there have been people go in different directions in the name of the Anglophone problem.
It was inevitable. It's such a struggle. There are some genuine people and there are opportunists. And also there is a government hidden hand in such. But it is not going to derail because the people know the genuine leaders of their cause. And in spite the divisions that might exist, it is not going to deter the determination of the people of West Cameroon.
How do you size up the contribution of the Cameroonian diaspora to the evolution of the course?
I think they are really like they are the locomotive of all this thing, and this financial locomotive, moral locomotive, ideological locomotives. They are doing it, and it's the fault of the government because no right-thinking government on earth will allow a large chunk of its people to be beyond its borders, because the government of Cameroon doesn't learn. Because look at what happened in Burundi, look at what happened in Rwanda. And the Rwandese who came back are those who were driven away from the country in 1961 and 1972, and they came back to take power. And I also think that's the reason why the most southern Cameroonians who are abroad left because of the injustices that are in this country. You said the problem of education. Most of them were well educated, but they could not get a job. Some of them were left the country because of political problems, and they have gone now. They have stayed for 25 years. They have fathered out children who are much more extremist than their parents. They want justice to be done. I think it's the fault of the government.
But critics, and this is for you, Henry, critics say that these are people who are isolated from the direct impacts of whatever may happen in Cameroon as a result of their support to the struggle. They are in the comfort of their abodes and offices in Washington, in Paris, in the China, UK, in London, everywhere across the world. They don't feel the impacts, and that's why they can afford to fund the instigation of violence on the streets of Cameroon.
You cannot say they don't feel the impact.
They may have siblings here, but
yes, they may have siblings here. You will not tell me that somebody like Tassan Wilfred or Bob Gahamoni don't feel the impact because they are there. Don't forget that their life was on a line. That is why they had to escape. And when you escape because of an injustice, it doesn't mean that where you are in a comfort zone. You might not be comfortable because your children are there. Most of them, if not all of them, would like to come back home and become full-fledged Cameroonians, operating on equal length like others. You might say, yes, they are keeping their children in comfort zones. We know that it has been happening across the globe, where those, I don't even want to call them dissident, they are not at all dissident, where those people who felt they were unjustly treated by the nation are doing one or two things from across the borders to probably correct the wrongs of the past.
The number of the groups are so many, but a short list, a roster will tell you there's Kakov, there's Morisk, there is ACYL, and there's AGM, for example. That's Elie Smith, can this struggle be effectively led from beyond Cameroon?
No. Beyond Cameroon is just going to be like the lifeline, but you need people on the ground. If you don't have activists on the ground, it's not going to be effective. The government is going to steamroll everything. So the diaspora is just helping, because if you have everything cut off from Cameroon, so how do you want people who are trying to do justice in their country to survive? So I think the diaspora will continue to help, will continue to play a vital role. If the government wants it to stop, the government needs to negotiate with people of the diaspora. So send people there to talk, and talk genuinely. The
reason I asked you that question, Elie Smith, is because CACUF, which in full is the Southern Cameroon's Consortium United Front, designated a certain Seseko Tabe Julius Ayuk at the weekend as an interim president, with deputy being Tassan Wilfred.
Yes.
Is he president of the group or president of what may become a future?
Well, generally, when Salva Kiir had the same problem, they had to designate somebody who could lead prior to what should become a state, and that is why they put it an interim. But then I feel that that is part of the struggle to let people know that, well, somewhere along the line there is a body that is helping to organize, a movement that might come to fruition. Tabe, I followed something on the internet that has given a speech, addressing his people. I said his people.
Which people are we talking about in this instance? And that's why this is interesting now.
He's Southern Cameroonians, as they put it.
Did he get the mandate from Southern Cameroonians to speak on their behalf?
The mandate, like I understand, comes from the other members of that particular group
called Skakov.
And
this is why I like this, Elie Smith. More Risk is the movement for the restoration of the independence of Southern Cameroon. It's actually led by former CRTV journalist Bo Herbert. He was a member, alongside More Risk, a member of Skakov, and somewhere along the line they just split up, and he is planning to organize his own designation of an interim prime minister or president or whatever you may call it on July the 23rd.
Yeah, those things always happen. For example, when you have these nationalist movements, you always have divergent points of view. Perhaps Bo Herbert left Skakov because of ideological reasons. It is normal for such a thing to happen. Now, sadly, there's going to be infighting, and that the group that is much more stronger is going to eat up the other one and establish itself. That's how it happens.
So apparently the government is sitting in their own day and cheering and saying, oh, this thing is breaking up. They're never going to find union. And this is a bad signal to the international community that the diaspora is hinging on for recognition of the cause.
But when the international community recognizes such a movement, which I suppose they are probably contemplating on, it becomes dangerous. It becomes dangerous. And just to say,
why would it become dangerous, Henry?
Because don't forget that SCAPO was recognized. I'm talking about.
But it's apparently gone dormant.
Yes,
because of the evolution of the cause.
It went dormant. Eduardo dos Santos is still ruling, despite the odds. But don't forget that it's always the case. And if nationalist movements like Skakov and Maurice are splitting over, it means that the government might capitalize on it. But since it has become, like I said, like a spiritual movement, sometimes the people who are here do not even need the assistance, because it's not like financial assistance, it's just a spiritual movement. You resist because the ideology is already implanted in the people. So the role that they are playing is just to give them the ideological approach on how to go about things and so on. It's not like a full-fledged war with arsenals.
A couple of moments ago, we saw the images of Tapang, Ivor, and Mark Barra. Now, these people were designated coordinators of the outlawed Cameroon Anglophone Civil Society Consortium following the January 21 arrest of Agbo Bala, Neba Fontem, and Mancho Bibixi, and others. Elie Smith, are some of these people using the struggle, the Anglophone struggle, to position themselves politically or make financial gains? Is that a possibility?
Yes, it is possible.
Are you aware of claims that Tapang, Ivor, and Mark Barra, for example, have siphoned money contributed by the diaspora and sent only crumbs back home to Cameroon?
I'm not aware about that, but I will not be surprised. As I was saying,
here they are.
Yes, in nationalist movements, you have these discrepancies, dichotomies that happens. What is going to happen? I don't see any problem with Skakov having their president. Skakov having their president. Maurice having their prime minister. Now, what is going to happen? There are two things are possible. Either they are going to fight each other to death. One is going to kill another one. Or, if they are intelligent enough, they can now dialogue. And I think the option is going to be to see how both organizations can work together in order to attain their common ground, because it doesn't all go well for the international community or for whoever to look at a movement that is dispersed, which shows also that they are disorganized.
And they don't deserve a country to run.
They don't deserve a country to run on their own, because we have a precedent, South Sudan. I am a person, we worked for South Sudan to be independent. And people are sometimes worried to say that at birth they are fighting each other. But there's a reason for that. But what Bo Herbert and Tapang and the rest could do is that after they must have created their own prime minister, they can sit, discuss, like what SPLA did once between when John Garang was alive and Salva and this other guy who is a kind of wayward guy, not Bashir, because within this SPLA there was a division in 1986 between Riek Machar and John Garang.
Right.
And later on, there was peace brokered in by Bernard Kouchner. Bernard Kouchner tried to do something, and Bernard Henry Levy. And they decided to merge again. They decided to bury the hatchet. And the hatchet came out simply because Mr. Marshall thinks that Salva Kiir is not that intelligent intellectually to rule over South Sudan. Okay. But now, as far as Southern Cameroon is concerned, it is a cause of concern to see people who are fighting against a violent Republic of Cameroon government will not be able to sit on the same table, try to unite themselves and have a common front. We should be sincere about that. Okay. It is quite troubling.
But now it is true, yes, Henry, briefly.
Briefly, you talked something about phones. I don't understand the origin of the funds, because people have been saying that
there is an account. It is called GoFundMe. It's actually where Cameroonians in the diaspora who
drop money
supporting the movement and drop money.
And the part of the money comes back to...
There are coordinators. Previously, that thing was being coordinated by Tapang Ivor and Mark Barra.
I understand, because it comes back to what Atanga Ponji said some time ago, that he has proves that the money comes into the country. And I don't know, I've not seen this diasporic financial contribution that is in the country or in West Cameroon or Southern Cameroon that is helping in the fight. I think that it is, like I said, it is the spiritual movement of it, or the spiritual part of it, that is driving it. It's not like they send money for people to...
In other words, we agree that some have transformed the struggle into a gold mine for themselves. Now let's go to the diaspora, with your permission, Henry, and get some reactions on how they are supporting the struggle back in Cameroon.
And we come to tell you that we feel ashamed of what France has done. And France should feel ashamed of what it has done. France is the only colonial power that did not decolonize. And colonialism, France, is a crime against humanity.
Expressing their displeasure with songs, they displayed several placards that showed pictures of slain family members in Bamenda, Cameroon.
We must show solidarity. We should not demonstrate today and go to bed. This is a daily occurrence until the day we obtain our freedom.
We are calling on the United Nations that the plebiscite, they know about the plebiscite. We are calling on Britain, that were the colonial master of the Southern Cameroon. And we are calling on the French, that are the colonial master of the La Republic, that they should come and listen to the plea of the Southern Cameroonians. We don't want blood on the street. We are marching peacefully.
My name's Joyce Sa. I'm a mother first, a Southern Cameroonian, and a student here in Berlin, and working as a nurse, my profession. I was part of the organizing committee. After growing up in Cameroon, I've been living here for over 20 years. And the situation, I left back home, and after 20 years, there's never been a change. And I think this is a chance for us to stand up. Maybe our parents were not able to do that, but I think we have to use this opportunity to fight for ourselves and for our children and our children's children.
Is that what the storming of the Bastille was all about? Does that make you proud to be the country that was at the origin of human rights? You should feel ashamed, France. And we say this like friends, because you've got time to do the good work. We understand you were doing this because you thought our eyes were dark, we will never wake up, we will never resist, but time is up, France. We will resist you to the last person. Yes. We will not let you rule our people. We will not accept misrule, neither from you nor from your stooge in Yaoundé.
And we're standing out today to tell the world that this type of killing is not permitted.
We're standing here next to the White House. President Obama, we hope for he steps out, and even with President-elect Donald Trump coming in, we hope they will take this matter forward, because we don't want to have another rounder in southern Cameroon.
What is actually the situation in southern Cameroon right now?
I would like to say it is more of a genocide. We are having a military occupation in southern Cameroon. Normally, the present government in Cameroon claims it's an English problem, a language problem, but it's not a language problem. We are not having any problem with our French brothers from Cameroon. We don't have any language problem. We have a problem of marginalization. We have a problem of discrimination. We have a problem where our brothers, our sisters, our children who are educated are having no jobs. We have a problem where those who are qualified are selling along the streets.
We have transmitted to your ambassador for onward transmission to your president, Mr. Hollande in France, a memo that tells you exactly what we are going to do. And we are telling you that on Sunday, the 1st of October, 2017, the anniversary of our independence, we will inaugurate a government in Boya. We will inaugurate a Congress in Boya.
Yes.
We are not asking you. You are going to have to kill every one of us.
And so that's it. We're about 30 minutes after the hour, and that's where we begin to call it quits on this other edition of the the Toughtalk platform. I'm sorry, nostalgia for Green Tough is getting at me. Elie Smith, it's time for us to extend condolences to the families of the 14 people killed last night at Waza in the far north. Even though at the weekend, Minister of Defense Joseph Betia Somo claimed that Boko Haram had been defeated.
No, the Minister of Boko the Minister of Boko Haram. The Minister of Defense is kind of naive. The dynamics of Boko Haram has changed. We have 3 top men who are running Boko Haram who have really changed dynamics.
Including Cameroonians.
3 Cameroonians who know the terrain very well. So we think Cameroon should be up and put a lot of money in intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kejan Henry, a minister's wife going to slap, a minister going to slap a minister's wife.
They're scandalous.
Are we taking that up on Tuesday?
If you hope so.
Depending on how the story evolves.
It depends on how the story will evolve. But if the press will carry such a story, then it's scandalous. That a female minister going to fight in the residence of a former minister because the former minister is the boyfriend to that sitting minister.
Okay, let's come back to that if it evolves with interesting angles. And so thanks so much for sharing all this while with us. We hope to get your company when we come around again next week. Meantime, there are lots and lots of interesting stuff lined up for you on Canal English between now and then. Stay tuned and always run from trouble on the double. Catch you next time.